are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
We end up having this, which is Rook Exodus number 6. It's a big issue. And it ends up, like we said, it pretty much ends season 1. It ends the first trade, the first arc, the first whatever. And it'll be back in a while. But it is Geoff Johns with Jason Fabok on art, Brad Anderson on colors, Rob Lay on letters. And I'll tell you one thing. Like, I like this issue. It's a really good issue. But I'm telling you, Ursa gets taken down a little too easy at one point. That's the only thing. Like, it was at a point where I was like, this could be like close to a 10. It's getting up there. It was definitely like in that. It may have pushed back a little for me just because of Ursa being this big bad. And then all of a sudden, he kind of isn't, and he done.
Got a bird in his eye.
Yeah, he did. And then when it happens, I actually thought, like, they're saying he still might wake up, which that's fine. I thought he was just dead. The way that he ended up losing connection and stuff, it's because he lost consciousness, but I thought he was dead. And I'm like, oh my God. So with him still there, okay. But we find out about him. We find out about Dire Wolf's dad, which seems to be where we're going forward with that as well and having to rely on him. And we have like Carapace almost dies. There's a lot, but we'll get into this because really it started out so like balls to the wall that I couldn't even remember what ended when we last had Rook, because it seemed like, oh my God, like I didn't think we were full out like this, but you end up having some guys, Ursa sent them out and they're going off to collect the helmets. They're going off to collect, the warden's helmets from different places. And in that, it's very quick and says like, hey, what's up with Rook? I thought he was dead or something. Like, no, he's coming at us. And like, he's really coming at us quick. And the one guy says, well, he can't fly. And then, boom, you see him. And he ends up in his, I don't even know what you'd call it. The ATV doom buggy thing that just like leaps off a cliffside and ends up with the birds following. It's really cool. I mean, it looks really great. Cool. This whole issue.
It's straight out of the Batman comic, and I love it.
Yeah, and it just lands. And then you do have, again, where Rook at this point is like, I'm in now. And he's like, my dad died protecting animals from the farm. I'm going to end up making this my farm now. He ends up, Exodus is my farm. It's bigger, but I'm going to do this. The birds are all with him. You get fired up. You're like, holy crap. Like,
absolutely.
And it's great because he ends up where the birds are doing their thing. They're blinding some guys in the one, and then he's just rooting tooting. He's just distracted. And it becomes almost like, Mad Max type deal. Yes. It's Road Warrior through that. That's what it feels like. As you do see too, where the big stakes are, that all the helmets are, on the grid, and Ursa has the grid, and we go to him, and right away you end up seeing Direwolf helmet is taken from her. She's chained up, and Ursa's just a jerk. He is just a jerk and says, I'm taking you all. I'm grabbing all these things. And she says, who are you? And he's like, I'm Ursa. And she's like, no. Like, who were you before? Like, yeah, did you came with us? Like, what happened? Because she starts pleading with him and says, listen, I know that we got Better World left us behind, but we're with you. Like, you don't have to be angry like this. They left us behind. Come on. Like, we're all together. Let's do this together. And she does end up saying, like, listen, I think the bears have gotten to you. You end up with the idea of you're being territorial. I think that their influence has gotten you. And he says, well, kind of. They have, maybe. And then he says, perhaps that's affected me, but no, I haven't succumbed like your father. And the thing is, she said that her father was dead, and that he did it. And he says to her, I love that you lied to me. You lied to Rook. You lied to Carapace that I killed your father. And you want people to believe he's dead. He's not dead. And you know what the deal is. I actually thought they were going to say she killed him then, but he's not dead. What it is he is completely feral, it looks like, by the end.
The helmet overtook his mind.
And with her, and what she's tried to convince Rook about and say, listen, you have to commune with the things, you have to do it. It does make it a little sus that what happened with,
am I going to become a crow man one day?
Yeah, and that's the thing, that it does seem like Ursa does have a bit of that, but he's basically also saying, like, screw this. Like, I don't like you guys. I'm not here.
I just want the helmets and I'm going to dip.
Yeah. And they end up where Carapace, and I'm going to cut this whole armor and this helmet off him. And she says, if you do that, he'll die. And he's like, yeah, I'm kind of planning on that. Like, he's pretty bad. We've hated him already. I mean, he ends up with swine, and just the idea that he has pretty much taken these bears. Not that bears are the nicest thing, but still, he's made them into like vicious killing machines, and he's just bad. And just the design and how big he is, it's just so intimidating, and it's good. But he's like, yeah, I think that I want to kill him because he's too stubborn to just give up. And again, it makes Carapace pretty cool. Now, again, we're going to go quick in this because as they're doing this, we end up where you do see these yahoos cutting with just bandsaws, trying to cut into Carapace's deal, as you end up where she's like, stop. And then all of a sudden, boom, the wall gets bashed in, and it's Rook, and he ends up shooting at Ursa and gets him with like a zip line.
Yeah, like a grappling gun.
Yeah, and it gets him, and it's pretty funny because he's like, you really think you could reel me in? Like, you are a little man. You're not doing that. He's like, oh, you think that I'm the one who's going to do this? And then all of a sudden you see the vehicle starts
just drive off.
Just drive off, and Ursa's like, oh my God. And he gets kind of ripped out, and then they do start fighting, and you do have Direwolf. She grabs her helmet. She puts that on. You don't really get much from her anyway because of this. They're going to end up where she's going off to do things to save Carapace, while you end up where she just says, not, hey, did you kill or take? She's like, can you distract them? And again, Ursa's huge. But
7'11" or something.
Yeah, and this is one of the things where we haven't seen a lot of like gunfights like this, a real out straight up, battle and it's pretty cool. And you have, double guns going, double fisting.
I just want to tell Rook, I was like, like half his chest is exposed, but yet you shoot his arm and
head. He's shooting
like,
the arm and the shoulder pads.
Just take a step to the right, a few steps.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. I mean, look at him. And he's shooting, and then the bears come from behind, and you end up having Ursa says, you made a mistake, Rook, coming here. And you end up, that's where Direwolf says, I'm on the way to Carapace. Do you have Ursa? He's like, I'm keeping him occupied a bit, if that's what you mean. And it's not going well. I mean, it really isn't, but he is able to avoid, and you do see the birds gathering in the background. But in my mind, you're like, what are they going to do? Like, really, what are they going to do? They do stuff, because you do have Direwolf go and, save Carapace. That's pretty quick. She just goes in and beats the crap out of these guys. Rook is holding his own, though. He really is, until it does look like he's going to die. But I thought he was just going to crush his head like a grape. But Ursa grabs the helmet and throws it and says, it doesn't belong to you. And the crow connection is severed. It's terminated. And so you have all the crows. And this is where you have Ursa, who just looks huge. These bears are there. And he says, you were all about yourself. You almost made it off of Exodus. You made that. He knows a lot. Like, you know what I mean? He's like, you made a rocket. You were going to get out there. And you almost succeeded in escape because of it, Rook. But the birds, they got into your head like Direwolf did. They gave you the false idea that life cares about other life. And he's just going, now he's just beating the crap out of Rook without a helmet.
Breaks his freaking arm.
Oh my God, just destroys him. And says, animals have no loyalty. You serve the birds, no purpose now. So as Better World did, they left you to die. And you did see they kind of did go away for a bit, but then they swing back. And you have that main one, and the one comes in, and it's clawing away. And you end up where Ursa gives it the backhand. And,
I thought this crow was dead. I mean, I was just like, you see birds fly into
walloped.
Windows and die. How the hell does it survive this?
So you end up where, and then you could say that in this is that now it's the rest of the birds are mad because of what happens to what is their leader. But it seems like luckily, Rook made the connection with them right before this. I mean, it has been recent. He was all against it, and he finally did. He ended up realizing there was a leader and seeing the different deal. Yeah, and so he says, the birds, Ursa was wrong. They're here, and they are with me. And they
even
come in
without the helmet.
And that's that, though. I mean, you have the birds come in, and I know there's a lot of birds, but this is Ursa, the big bad that you're expecting, like this big thing. The birds just overwhelm him and push him off of this big deal that they're on, and he falls down what I thought to his death. And I thought, boy, that's a little lackluster. After all of this, it's cool. And the moment is that he doesn't have the helmet, and the birds are still helping and protecting him. So that's big. But in the meantime, you're like, really? Because this connection is terminated. And again, I thought what was going to happen. I was like, are these bears going to go eat him? Because again, he was brutal with them. It was like that other swine, swine part 2. They just leave. Like, they're not going to protect his body, and they're leaving. So you end up where he says the bears head back to the woods, and the birds, they come to him, and you get that first one, the leader who's lost an eye, and he says, I'm going to call you Poe. And that's a cool name, right? And you end up where you end up.
Eric thinks this book is bullshit.
Yeah, maybe, but it works. And the thing is, I don't mind that when we're going, we're like, oh, there's Poe. Plus, you do a really good idea here. You have to have something different with them, or else you're never going to be able to tell between the crows. He's missing an eye. That's perfect. You end up. What else could you do to make it so that you'll recognize him right away? I think that's decent enough. And then all the other, birds kind of gather and whatnot. And so they end up where, in that vehicle that Ursa, this thing is freaking humongous. And that's what they were trying to stop too. And the birds at one point were really upset and trying to tell Rook, like, listen, other birds that aren't, the crows are not us. They're being attacked. They're being displaced. And we're really upset. So you end up stopping that. That thing is so big.
Oh, yeah.
And you see that most of the guys, all the guys that were hooked up with Ursa, they bail. Like, that's the thing.
Not only did they bail, the bears went after them.
Yeah, really. They're all like attacked. And so when you have this, it's all about like loyalty and stuff like that. And Ursa was not going to get loyalty. He was just vicious. And he, ruled with an iron fist. And once these bears were able to go, and even the people, nobody's staying back to get his body or whatever. They don't care. So they leave. But they have the body. I'm like, okay, they're going to maybe take the helmet off. But they can't. The helmet's fused. That's his face now. And it's
that's kind of weird.
Pretty weird. And it's kind of vicious and whatnot. But again, it's one of those, when we get to who he is and what it is, I don't know if Better World were the ones that they decided, okay, like, the way you won't lose this helmet is it's going to be fused to you and it can't come out. It's so weird.
I don't know. I think they should have just done something where it's like, oh, his like skull's fractured. We try to remove the helmet, all the pieces will just fall apart,
and he'll just die and whatnot. But even
it's the only thing keeping them together.
Yeah, so it's like, and Carapace, they were trying to get his off, and he says it's like me, it can't be removed. And he's like, why? Well, it's fused to him. He has no face because this is his face. And then you end up where Rook is even thinking of swine. You see that, and there's Pumbaa there, walking around snorting, and the birds are with them. So it's kind of cool. But it says the face of a word, it means something. A friend, old, new, and unknown. And unknown, I'm hoping he's not thinking Ursa's a friend, because that ain't no friend. But you end up then where Direwolf comes and says, listen, I figured him out. I figured out what happened. Now, she kept saying, if you were here, and you saw all this going in Exodus and everybody left, Better World left this, he's not part of that. He was sent by Better World to come back and get their
take all the tech. Yeah.
So it's weird how he went about it. Like the idea that it just seemed, and again, they weren't aware and they thought maybe he was a guy they didn't know about before or whatnot. But the big play here is that he was there to take the tech. And he's now in a coma, he's down. But in fact, they say, we have questions for Ursa when he wakes up. If he wakes up, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't want him to be a good guy.
No.
I don't want them to be like, oh, come on, man. Is he just going to
come back like Guy Gardner after the one punch where he's like, hey, guys, what's going on? Yeah, he's like,
hey, this is great. But says, everyone left behind.
Can I be the new swine now?
Yeah, really. All of a sudden, he's like, and then tries to take off his mask, and it just rips his face off. But yeah, it says, here we are. And he says, we thought Better World would never come back for us, and we were right. They came back to get
for the tech.
And so you have that looming, because I don't think they're going to stop, or they might have other. But then the big thing is, we got to go and gather up these wardens. And this is what we wanted. We thought that Ursa was going to go get them, but instead they got to go get them. Almost like a guild. Let's make a guild of the wardens. Let's go reattach, reacquaint ourselves with everyone. We'll do this. And then you just end up having...
need a league.
Yeah, and then Direwolf says, hey, I'm sorry I lied to you, but what happened to my father? He's as good as gone, at least as mine is. And you don't know what's happening just yet, but you end up where Carapace is like, I hope not, because he's the only one who can make this crap run, because the world engine is messed up. Ursa, and it's going bad. Even at the beginning, you had these two yahoos that were working for Ursa that were pissed off because it was raining. when it used to be able to be controlled by, hey, it's going to rain tonight at 6. We're going to have it rain for 45 minutes and it'll get that. And that wasn't working. So he ends up saying the only one who knows how to fix the engine is Direwolf's dad. And it's the Bloodhound. And when you see him, he's having problems.
Craven?
Yeah. I mean, look at this guy. He is not right.
How does he eat with the helmet on? Does he have to take the helmet off to eat?
Maybe, but those hands are awful. And he has problems. But that's where it says then, wherein they're going to go to the Rockies. We have to get there, and we're heading to get him. And then you end up seeing her dad and said, and we won't stop until we find your father. And then it says, to be continued in the next chapter of Rook Exodus coming in 2025. I'm like, what? Oh. And then the next page says, choose your animal, Rook Exodus. This story continues in 2025. I'm like, like I was so upset. Like maybe a month, because it was a week or so delayed. That's fine. But to actually now wait, because, November, December, at least 3 months. But we'll see. I have a feeling that we might not see it for like till spring or something like that. Or else I think they would say the beginning or a date. I think that it's just up in the air when it comes back. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it coming back. But I'm telling you, when it does, I'll be like, what the hell happened? Oh, yeah, they took down Ursa. At least it's a big thing. And it's not a delay like, that JSA book where you're in between issues. And then at least this has a definitive thing. They stop. Yeah. I'm sure that we'll get back on board. And when they do, they'll be like, okay, they're going to get Direwolf's father, the Bloodhound or whatever. And we'll remember stuff and go from there. But this is a good issue. It's a really good book. It's one of our favorite books. What would you give it?
I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I still really, really enjoyed it. Even though there were a few things with that and like with, Ursa being taken down so easy. It's still, everything feels earned here. And it does feel, like just, I really like how we now get to see Rook being one with the crows, and him accepting like, I am the caretaker of this world. I need to find the others. So that way I can make sure.
That was the moment, right? Yeah. The moment wasn't Ursa going down. It was that the birds actually are communing with him without the helmet. They have accepted him, and he accepted, them, and back and forth. And I think that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
So I'm a 9.
It was so awesome. Yeah,
I'm a 9 as well. I just thought maybe they come in and kind of do things, and then
I wanted them to distract him so he could like run up and kick him off, like drop kick him or something.
Do something like that. And I expected. I'm telling you, I'm expecting Rook to go kick him. As he does, we didn't know the helmet was fused. The helmet flies up. He catches that. And then this yuck ends up dead. But no, he's still alive. He's in a coma. They seem to want to be helping him, but I don't know. And then the feral dad, which is, again, I forgot the whole thing of her dad being dead. So when they ended up saying that, I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I remember. I'm telling you, I'm like, I think I remember that, but it wasn't really big in my head. But I'm like, I'll go with it, the way they're saying it.
That was like 4 issues ago.
It is a weird play because Ursa talking to Direwolf, and then it gets put like it didn't seem like Rook was privy to that conversation. So when she comes back and says, "I'm sorry, I lied to you," I'm like,
I was like, "Does he know?"
Yeah, I thought.
Were you talking on comms?
I thought he'd be like, "What? What are you talking about?" But it works out. It works out by the end. I'm going to give it a 9 as well. It's really good.
Yeah,
and I think that if you haven't been reading it, again, what are the thing it does? If you haven't been reading it, like Eric, plenty of time to catch up. You can catch up with these 6 issues. They're really good. It's worth it. I think everybody should.